Hey Frag fam, what is going on? I hope you guys are all doing well today. Elliot here and welcome back to The Fragrance Well. So, if you've been watching my channel for any amount of time, you probably have noticed that the majority of fragrances I talk about do tend to be niche fragrances. I do have quite a bit of designers in my collection, but usually the list are comprised of niche fragrances. One of the things you probably have noticed is that I don't really put much emphasis on niche versus designer unless, there's a subject matter kind of surrounding that concept. For me, niche and designer is more about the business, how the business is structured around the fragrances more so than a quality difference or a price difference, etc., etc. That's just my mindset on the subject matter, but I don't really like to make much of a thing about, well, here's a niche fragrance. Oh, here's the designer fragrance. I don't really care that much about that, but that being said, we're going to do a video about it anyway. We're going to do a favorite niche and a favorite designer fragrance video. This is going to be favorite niche. So what I am going to do is, instead of picking out 10 favorites of just niche fragrances in general, I'm going to feature 10 of my favorite houses that I have represented in my collection. And this will be based off me having at least 3 or more fragrances from the house. And I'm just going to pick one and kind of highlight the fragrance, and then I'm going to talk about what I like about the house specifically. All right, so let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into it. But before we do, as always, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you do like the content, and please hit that bell icon, enable notifications so you can be notified when I upload new videos. Let's get into it. All right, guys, let's go ahead and kick it off. These are basically in alphabetical order by house. So we're going to start off with Homme, and this is Interlude Man. Homme, Interlude Man. So Interlude Man, very notoriously known fragrance from the house of Homme. It's very, very spicy. It's very smoky. It's woody. It's leathery. It's a very dense and rich fragrance. It has the nickname, the Blue Beast, to it. It is a strong fragrance, Would it be beast mode for everyone? You know what? I don't even necessarily call it beast mode, but I mean, it's going to stick to your skin for sure. It's going to be a very heavy fragrance experience. I think this is the first Homme I ever owned. It might be the second one I ever owned. I think I blind bought it. I don't even remember. It was so long ago. But all I know is I love this stuff. I think this is one of the quintessential representations of what you get from the house of Homme, so I just chose to feature it for this video. And by the way, this does happen to be my favorite from the house right now. Homme, Middle Eastern fragrance house, obviously very well known in the fragrance community as well as just kind of in retail, because you can find it relatively easily if you do have those higher end retail stores near you. I firmly have a lot of respect for the house of Homme. I do think they have their own identity, which is something I can respect in a fragrance house. And they're my most owned fragrance house. I got 12 so far. I do plan to add more, but I don't want to fill up my entire cabinet with just Homme fragrances. But then again, I guess I could say that about all these fragrances. I don't want to just buy them. I like to buy other stuff as well. But Homme is a house that I think speaks for itself in terms of the popularity it's been able to gain. And the thing about it is the fragrances are not necessarily mass appealing, yet they still have the popularity that they have. I think that really speaks to the success and the value of the house for a lot of people. So once again, from Homme, this is Interlude Man. All right, guys, next one's going to be coming from Arabian Oud. This is Royal Oud. Arabian Oud, Royal Oud. Now, the house of Arabian Oud is another Middle Eastern house, so we're starting off with 2 Middle Eastern houses, and I do think it is a house that represents Middle Eastern perfumery relatively well. Now, compared to Homme, their catalog is insanely larger, and Homme doesn't have a small catalog in terms of what they have available, but this one here is a rose and oud and musk fragrance. I don't know the type of rose that's in here. I just know it smells like top quality, really heavenly rose in my opinion. Oud here, I believe, is Cambodian oud, very high quality in my opinion. I think this fragrance here just represents 2 magical fragrance notes that are very well represented across all forms of perfumery, and it presents it at a very high level and is using some really good quality ingredients in my opinion. It's relatively simple scent, but man, is it top-notch quality. It's my favorite oud rose fragrance in my cabinet. This does also happen to be my favorite Arabian oud fragrance that I have so far. I will say this much about Arabian Oud. You can find some amazingly high quality stuff from that house, but because their catalog is so extensive, it's almost like they kind of tried to make something for everyone. They've got some stuff that smells like it should be $15 at a rack store too. So, you know, I don't think everything they have, it speaks to the quality of the house, but they do have something for everyone, I think. Most of the fragrances do kind of stay in that Middle Eastern style realm. You could probably argue there are some that maybe step outside of that a little bit, but because the catalog is so massive, again, it's like one, you can just kind of find something that you definitely like out of it. If you like the simpler, more mass appealing, people pleasing stuff, they have plenty of that. And if you're like me, where you also like the higher end, really rare ingredient, oody stuff, a little bit tougher, more so for the person who appreciates perfume at a higher level, they have plenty of that too. And that's what I think this fragrance is. So once again, from Arabian Oud, this is Royal Oud. All right, guys, next house is going to be Day 3 fragrances, and this is La Tacita de Café. Day 3, La Tacita de Café. All right, so this fragrance here is, by all accounts, you could say the fragrance that kind of put this house on the map. The fragrance won an award in the infancy of the company's existence, so that is really coming out and making a statement, if you will. This fragrance is basically a spicy coffee, mostly gourmand fragrance. Coffee with a variety of spices there, a really nice sugary ambery touch to the scent. It's not like the earthiest coffee ever. It's more of a balanced, pleasant coffee, and I think the fragrance is great. This is, again, I think it's a statement making scent to come out with something like this and basically win a fragrance award kind of right out of the gate. Now, I guess you could technically call this an indie house. In my mind, indie, niche are kind of the same thing. The difference being that indie in general typically means the fragrance is run by less people, doesn't have like incorporated levels of management, and also doesn't necessarily have the marketing budget that, say, maybe a larger niche house has. But I think they're one and the same in terms of who they're trying to capture as their audience. As far as Day 3 fragrances go, I've said it before and I'll say it again, I don't think they have one bad fragrance that they have ever released. They actually have discontinued a few up to this point. I think it's inevitable that some houses are just going to get rid of fragrances that they're just not getting the sales from, but I have never smelled a bad fragrance from this house. It's just a matter of, you don't necessarily need to own all of them, but I can't say anything bad about all of the fragrances. The brand did actually send me a large portion of their catalog, so Day 3 instantly went to one of my most owned houses just because they sent me so much stuff. But all the fragrances they sent, I think, are great. Many of them I may have not necessarily bought myself, but you know what? I'm glad to have them. Now I can kind of experiment with them and see if maybe I would change my mind on that for those ones that I said originally I wouldn't buy. But La Tacita de Café is one that I bought originally. This house is amazing. It's made waves in the content creation community in certain sectors. It's made waves in the fragrance community at large. It's a company that is continuing to grow, and I'm happy to see their success because I think it's well deserved. So once again, from Day 3 fragrances, this is La Tacita de Café. All right, guys, next one's going to be coming from Francesca Bianchi. This is The Dark Side. Francesca Bianchi, The Dark Side. Now, in terms of this fragrance, I call this fragrance Dracula's signature scent. Why? It is just this dark, damp, earthy, slightly spicy, resinous fragrance that makes you almost think of like a dilapidated library room or something. I mean, it really paints that picture in my mind, and as a result, I'm just like, yo, this is like Dracula's signature scent. Fragrance smells very, very interesting. Definitely not going to be for everybody. It's not challenging in terms of smelling bad. It's challenging in terms of being very unique and different from a lot of fragrances out there, especially your mass appealing ones. I appreciate the scent for what it is though. Now, this was a blind buy for me. What I love about this house is every fragrance I've got in my cabinet from the house has been a blind buy. All of them successful blind buys. All of the fragrances really pushing what I think is something I appreciate about Francesca Bianchi, and that is that she uses very heavy, strong, forward, aggressive notes that most people don't want anywhere near their skin. But I love the way the fragrances come together. I think they're masterfully crafted. They're very powerful scents. They're strong scents. If you like strong fragrances, might be worth checking some of them out. Now, not every fragrance from a house is like that. Not every fragrance from a house comes in these little tiny 30 milliliter bottles. But the fact of the matter is, these scents are so powerful, you don't really need a lot of juice or a lot of sprays to get a really powerful wearing experience from them. This one I just kind of wanted to feature. I haven't talked about this one in a while, and I think it's one of those scents that really further pushes some of the uniqueness you get from the house of Francesca Bianchi. So once again, from Francesca Bianchi, this is The Dark Side. Alright guys, next one's going to be coming from Mason Francis Kirkjohn. This is Grand Soir. Mason Francis Kirkjohn, Grand Soir. Alright, so Grand Soir, one of the most well-known fragrances from MFK. This one is a very heavy ambery scent, kind of a spicy, ambery, vanillic scent that is just so good. Just so great. I'm sure this is a favorite of many in terms of the amber world. I certainly do appreciate it for what it is. I think the fragrance is magical. Here's the thing about the house of MFK. I truly do appreciate the house of Mason Francis Kirkjohn. That being said, there's some fragrances that are strong hitters in terms of the fragrance world, and some that are just clear misses. MFK in general, or should I say Francis Kirkjohn in general, he's kind of the same way. He can put out some of the most memorable fragrances to ever be on the fragrance market, and then at the same time he'll put out something different, and it's just like, what is that? I feel that way about the latest release, Kirky. Not that it's a bad fragrance, it's just one that I know I wouldn't spend any money on. I appreciate it for what it was trying to do. I think it does capture that, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't see a lot of people buying this, so I don't really understand that release. But I could be wrong. Maybe the fragrance is doing great in sales. I have no idea. That being said, Francis Kirkjohn has some favorite fragrances in my collection. So any fragrance he puts out, I actually look forward to checking out because I thoroughly appreciate what this fragrance house has. I do think there is a little bit of an identity in the fragrance house, and I do like that as well. I love the house. It's also one of my most owned fragrance houses in my collection, and you know what? There's still actually quite a few older releases that I need to get my hands on. Gentle Fluidity, I think, is going to be the next one I purchase. I just tend to forget about it. I don't know why, but it's also one that's kind of hard to find on discounters. You don't really see Gentle Fluidity, but that's neither here nor there. Once again, from Mason Francis Kirkjohn, this is Grand Soir. All right, guys, we're going to move on to one from Nishane. This is Fan Your Flames. Nishane, Fan Your Flames. All right, tropical tobacco fragrance here. This may be the most tropical tobacco fragrance I have in my cabinet in terms of if you're thinking of like the Caribbean in general. Rum, coconut, very boozy tobacco scent. Dry woodiness also in here. Good amount of sweetness. Powerful fragrance. Every time I wear this, it is on my skin and it is not leaving, and it's there all day. I do consider this fragrance beast mode based on my wearing experiences, and I absolutely love this stuff. The House of Nishane, Turkish fragrance house. Seems like it's a thing for Turkish fragrances to be relatively strong. I do think that is based on the environment, the environment of Turkey itself. I think someone in my comments said they were from there, and they did kind of confirm that a while back. But yeah, Nishane, no different from a number of other Turkish houses I've experienced thus far, but Nishane is one of my favorites. You probably would say that this is one of the most well-known at this point. Probably was the only well-known one for a period, and then some others came on the scene, and they're popular as well. But Nishane House I thoroughly respect. I really enjoy a lot of the fragrances they have. At the same time, don't necessarily feel like I need to own all of them, but I do appreciate what they are as a fragrance house. I actually have planned to buy more from the house, but I haven't really been able to sample them like I used to be able to. They used to be at my local niche perfumery. They've kind of moved away from having a lot of Nishanes there. Now it's just kind of a handful, and it's the ones I'm already familiar with. My local Neiman Marcus, for whatever reason, does not have Nishane as far as I know, and I know Neiman Marcus does carry Nishane fragrances. I've seen them at other ones, and they had like the entire lineup. So unfortunately, it's not one I can kind of go get my nose on. But I do plan on adding more Nishanes, but I'll be honest, I am thoroughly happy with the ones I have. I've got 6 so far. This one's amazing. I really do appreciate the ones that I have right now. So, if I never add another one, which again, I don't think that's going to happen, it's still one of my favorite fragrance houses, and Hasabat is my second favorite fragrance in my entire collection. So once again, from Nishane, this is Fan Your Flames. All right, guys, next house we're going to talk about is going to be Orto Parisi. This is Terroni. Orto Parisi Terroni. The most basic way you can describe this fragrance is it smells like scorched earth and volcanic soil that has produced some fruit or some plant life represented in the fragrance. This one is quite spicy. It's got a little bit of an ashy characteristic. It's quite earthy, has this kind of warm, resinous quality to it, and this kind of fruity, peppery quality to it as well. As you guys know, with Orto Parisi, they don't release official notes. You just kind of get what you get from the fragrance and describe it how you experience it. But this is another house that in general puts out very aggressive, strong, in many cases, outright weird fragrances. I don't really consider this one to be weird. I think this one's, to me, has always been kind of clear as to what it is representing. I need to get my nose on the new one. Have any of you guys gotten your nose on the new one? I have no idea how to pronounce it. Let me know what you think about it down below. But at some point, got to get to my local niche perfumery and check that one out. I'm really curious to see what that one is because, again, I'm a big fan of this house. Now, I've only got 3 of them so far, but there are definitely others I plan on getting. I definitely want to get that leather one. I'm going to check out the new one, see what I think of it. There's a couple others that I can't remember which one is which that I think I want to add. But all in all, I really appreciate the house for what it is. The fragrances can be a little bit weird, but you know what? I actually like somewhat weird fragrances. Not all of them, but fragrances that really push the envelope, I've always appreciated. I've always appreciated scents that, you know, really can use, or should I say use notes or ingredients that most people would just find strange. I've already kind of demonstrated that with Francesca Bianchi because I think it's the same concept with a lot of fragrances from her fragrance house. So once again, from Orto Parisi, this is Terroni. All right, guys, next house is going to be Roja Parfums, and this is Danger Parfum. Roja Parfums, Danger Parfum, Pour Homme. I think there's a Parfum version too. Anyway, Roja Parfums, you guys, I'm pretty sure are familiar with the house. Even if you haven't necessarily smelled a lot of them, you know the house exists. This is easily one of the most popular fragrance brands in niche perfumery and across the world. And the house, in my opinion, does speak for itself. Danger Parfum, I experience it to be kind of a aromatic fougere-like fragrance that doesn't smell like the traditional version of said fragrance, but it has those qualities. Lemon kind of citrus in here, very zingy, heavy lavender is represented in this scent. And between the, besides those two things, you basically get this collection of spices and woods. And it is a collection of them. It all just kind of comes together to smell like danger. That's just the best way I can describe it. And I really do love this stuff. It is great. This is actually my first Roja Parfums fragrance. My wife actually bought it for me as a birthday gift. Roja Parfums, you know, probably the most notable thing in terms of the community is the fact that all the fragrance note breakdowns are extensive. You know, you're looking at 30 to 50 notes per fragrance, which is wild. And it's like, yeah, bro, nobody is smelling all of that all at one time. It's just not possible. That's not how fragrances work in general. But quality is, in my opinion, always up there with Roja fragrances. You know, you could argue about the price. I'm not even trying to get into that. I completely can understand that. Some fragrances may feel like they are worth that price. Other ones, maybe not so much. But you could say that about any fragrance. So that's just something you just kind of have to deal with a luxury brand. But in my opinion, I do think that Roja Dove is using some of the highest quality ingredients he can get his hands on and does take great care and pride into crafting his fragrances. And I think that is well represented in the scents. So I respect the house for that. And at this point, I've actually amassed up to, I think, 6 Roja fragrances, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 6 of them. And I think they're all great. So once again, from Roja Parfums, this is Danger Parfum Pour Homme. All right, guys, next one's going to be coming from Savoir Faire, and this is the Whiskey Rose. Savoir Faire, the Whiskey Rose. All right, so, I mean, this is basically another indie fragrance house, but I consider indie and niche to, in many ways, be the same thing. I think they're trying to appeal to the same people. It's just a matter of reach, really, in terms of the company's size. Savoir Faire is another fragrance house where every fragrance I own, with the exception of one, has been a blind buy. And I have been blown away by what I've gotten from those fragrances. I mean, absolutely stunned. And this one here is a boozy rose fragrance. It's like rose petals soaked in whiskey. Fragrance relatively warm, and also a suede like leather there, just adding to the sexiness of this scent in my opinion. Once it dries down, I do think it gets a little bit more ambery, woody. Good blast of labdanum, kind of a spicy ambery feel you get from that, or should I say spicy resinous feel you get from that, but often used in some amber accords. I think you get a great blast of that once this dries down. This fragrance is amazing. Really turned my head when I got this in. I was blown away by this one in particular, since I'm highlighting it. But every fragrance I've gotten from the house that has been a blind buy, I've been stunned by. So this is an excellent fragrance house, and I just respect the fact that, you know, a smaller brand without, you know, big corporate backing can put out amazing stuff. And, you know, sometimes the biggest advantage to buying from these indie houses is, number one, you can get some really unique stuff because they kind of can do whatever the heck they want. And number two, the price point is typically a lot better because their overhead is smaller. And I don't think that Chris Classic is skimping on quality with these fragrances. I think the quality is certainly there in these fragrances. To me, this doesn't smell like it's using anything cheap. So, you know, just because it's indie and it's cheaper doesn't mean you're getting less than fragrances, so to speak. But yeah, Savoir Faire is an amazing fragrance house. I've talked about it quite a bit on the channel. If you haven't checked it out yet, I think you should check them out. I do believe they have samples of all their fragrances. So once again, from Savoir Faire, this is the Whiskey Rose. All right, and the final fragrance house we're going to talk about for this video is Xerjoff. This one here is going to be Uden Overdose. Xerjoff Uden Overdose. So I wanted to highlight this one because, number one, this was my first Xerjoff, and it was a blind buy. And man, this stuff is amazing. Fans of this fragrance kind of know. Now, this is not one of the most popular Xerjoff fragrances on the market, but this is one that is popular kind of within people who are familiar with a number of Xerjoff fragrances. This is a tobacco flower heavy scent. Tobacco flower, I like to describe it as a soapy, sweet floral that can really take over a fragrance. I think that's the case here. But you got really nice ginger-like freshness to this scent. It is relatively sweet. It's kind of an ambery fragrance, also kind of vanillic, or using tonka bean. Really good for like the spring in general, but you could wear it at other times also. And this is an amazing fragrance, and it was a really good blind buy. I just jumped on it, and it worked out. Thank goodness. Xerjoff. Also, one of the biggest, most well-known fragrance houses in the niche world and in fragrances in general. Another house also that has a very extensive catalog. So again, I think you can easily find something you like out of the entire catalog. Now, you may not want a majority of the fragrances. You may think the house could be overrated overall, but because they have such a wide variety of styles of fragrances and lines of fragrances, I reiterate that. You ought to be able to find something that you like. They make great fresh fragrances. They make great warmer fragrances. They make great out there fragrances. They got some stuff that is going to turn a lot of people away, but I think it's done really, really well. In terms of style, I think to a degree they have their own style that you can find in their fragrances, but I'm not completely sold on that concept. But all I can say is I think for the most part, for most of the fragrances, quality is up there. For a lot of them, I do think they are using some of the best ingredients, and I do feel like it is a house that won't compromise in terms of what they offer. So once again, from Xerjoff, this is Uden Overdose. All right, that's going to do it for this video. Let me know down in the comments below if you are a fan of niche fragrances. Name some of your favorite niche fragrance houses. Would love to see what you guys have to say, and if you want to, let me know what you think about some of the houses I talked about in this video. And remember, when it comes to the niche world, it is endless. There are tons of houses out there that you probably won't see in content creation. A number of content creators I've never heard of, including myself, and just people in general. There's so much stuff. And remember, it seems like every week a new fragrance house comes into existence, and who knows how big they could grow. So thanks again for watching all the way into the end. I really do appreciate you guys. Please remember to be well and smell well. And I will see you in the next episode of The Fragrance Well. Have a good one.